Hello everyone, today we're gonna review the BigBig One Blitz Controller. It's the successor to the Elitist S, the first controller I reviewed here in the channel. But in this upgrade, the controller has full mechanical buttons, a charging dock, and NFC compatibility. The dock is sold separately, and we're gonna review that later on. In the box, you get the controller and the cables and the manual. The BigBig One Blitz shares the same ergonomics with the Pro controller. The main difference is the addition of shortcut buttons on the back and on the top. All of the buttons have clicky switches, and they will stop just at the right spot, not too deep into the shell. The Dpad is also clicky and it doesn't sink in the middle. And the back buttons are pretty good. They are easy to press at any point. And probably my favorite addition, shortcut buttons on the top. These buttons are harder to press by accident. On the back you have a sticker with the different button combinations to access the different modes. Pressing A plus pair will turn on the switch mode. The LEDs will turn red to indicate that. And here the Blitz controller will work just as a Pro controller. With the back buttons, you can set it up to a running button. This way, running and jumping is much more easy. Doing this with a regular button layout is a bit awkward. The B and X buttons are on the opposite sides. Setting B to the back button will let you make this combination effortlessly. As I mentioned before, you can also remap functions to the top buttons. If you tend to mash a lot, you can accidentally press the back buttons. But that won't happen with the buttons on the top. Another option is to set up a macro to easily access other functions. For example, here I have two macros to access different runes. And you can also combine functions. For example, I remapped Y to the top buttons, and then I enabled Turbo. This way I can hold Y for charging my attack, or hold the top button to release repeated attacks. And this controller can read amiibos. On PC, you can press B and home, and the LEDs will turn green. Here you can see that the analog sticks are pretty good, with no dead zones in the axis. And let's do a circularity test. Also with impressive results. Only 2.6% of average error on the circularity test. In this controller, you can also disable the central dead zone. A dead zone in the center is good to avoid drifting, but in case you want to disable it, you can. Just press the middle button and press the analog stick you want. And now the dead zone is completely removed. This works on both the left or right stick. On the Dpad test, the diagonals aren't so easy to access. I prefer the Dpads where you can access diagonals by rocking your thumb in one direction only, but here it's not the case. Your thumb must be in the middle of the two directions to access the diagonals. And with these buttons here, all of the functionalities of the controller are easy to access. The first function is the turbo option. You can change the turbo speed by pressing function and left on the D-pad. And double tapping the button will disable turbo. Next is the button remap. Press it together with the back button you want, and then press the button you want to remap. Next is the macro function. Here the LED will start breathing to let you know it's recording. When you're finished, press the macro button again. And lastly, there's the profile selector. Here you can select 4 different profiles. On the profile 1, I have a Hadouken set to the macro. And on profile 4, I have the spinning pile driver from Zangief. Holding function and pressing right on the D-pad will let you set the vibration intensity. And let's take a look on the dock. In the box, you get the dock only. The dock has magnets and it will hold the controller pretty well. The USB port in the front of the dock is an extension. You can leave the dock plugged in and still use that USB port. And when you put the controller in, RGB lights will let you know that the controller is charging. Moving to the teardown, you have two hidden screws under the sticker. After removing all screws, you can easily remove the back shell. Here you can see the nicely protected back buttons and the magnets on the back of the controller. On the main board, the battery is a 100 mAh battery. And you can see it has mouse switches for all buttons. This is great for the durability in the long term, as these switches are easy to replace. The analog sticks, though, are regular Alps potentiometer sticks. And you have this tiny switch here for the pairing button. Sadly, you cannot change the button layout. And here's the other side of the front board. On the triggers, the pivot is not made of metal, but the construction is not putting any pressure on it, so I believe that it will be pretty durable. On my final thoughts, the Blitz controller is a nice upgrade. The analog sticks are not magnetic, but they are great. They have a lot of precision and no dead zones in the axis. All of the buttons have mechanical switches, and that is great for repairability. The top shortcut buttons is an awesome addition, and it can be paired with two devices simultaneously. This way, switching back and forth from your PC to your Switch is easy and effortless. On the cons though, the Dpad is not that good. The diagonals could be a lot better. And it has a dock with a front port, but there is no 2.4 GHz dongle. The Elitist S had one, and it's sad to see it removed here. And the triggers are digital triggers, which might be a deal breaker for some. And that's it. I'll leave the links to the Blitz controller in the description of this video. If you liked the review, consider subscribing to the channel, leaving a like or a comment. Sharing the video helps out too. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.